What if the world you see is not the world itself, but the world interpreted? What if the reality we experience is shaped not only by our senses, but by the words we use to understand it? For hundreds of thousands of years, humans saw the same mountains, rivers, and stars we see today, but they did not see them the way we do. Somewhere along the way, something changed. Not the world, but the way we describe it. We began to carve reality into words, and once we did, the world changed forever. Language is the lantern we carry into the dark. Welcome to the lantern's glow. Today, we explore the philosophy of language.
Before you knew the word tree, before you learned yesterday, before someone told you who you were, what was there? Light, sound, sensation, or something already structured. Tonight, we enter one of the most destabilizing debates in philosophy. Does language describe reality, or does it construct the world we experience? Across this series, we have traced the arc of existence, from the birth of stars to the formation of Earth to the emergence of consciousness. But now we arrive at something far more intimate, the invisible architecture through which we interpret all of it. We are not just biological organisms, we are symbolic beings. We build nations out of stories. We build identities out of words. We build meaning out of shared fictions. But here is the question that unsettles everything. Are those symbols tools, or are they the very fabric of the human world? Tonight, we don't lecture, we debate. Two positions, one friction, one prism. Welcome to the philosophy of language. I want to begin with something that sounds simple, but isn't. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the world before words. Not prehistoric Earth, not cavemen. I mean your world, before labels, before chair, before blue, before danger, before mine. Just light striking your eyes, sound vibrating in the air, temperature on skin, a flood of sensation. Not tree, not friend, not threat, just color, pressure, movement, raw, undifferentiated. Can you even hold that image for more than a second? Or does language rush in and begin sorting?
It's almost as if there's a voice running commentary.
Yes, a narration so constant we mistake it for thought itself.
It's almost impossible. The moment something appears, it's already categorized. We don't see color frequency in the 450 to 495 nanometer range. We see blue. We don't experience elevated heart rate and muscle tension. We feel fear. It's as if language is waiting, always slightly ahead of perception, compressing the infinite into something graspable.
The universe may be vast beyond imagination, but every moment of experience collapses that vastness into something we can hold. A sensation, a word, a thought. That compression is the heart of today's climb. Because if perception is always already filtered through language, then we never encounter the world nakedly. We encounter it clothed in symbols. And that raises a dangerous question. Does language merely describe reality? Or does it actively construct the world we experience? And if it constructs, how much of what we call reality is scaffolding?
Before we get carried away, we need to ground this. The tiger's teeth do not wait for grammar. The tiger is dangerous whether we have a word for it or not. Gravity operates whether or not we name it. Language doesn't conjure cliffs into existence.
No, but here's the friction. The cliff may exist, but danger, risk, sacred, forbidden, mine, those do not simply sit in the rocks. Those emerge in the symbolic layer. And to explore that, we need to step into a remarkable human story. A story that sits at the intersection of biology, perception, and language. Helen Keller.
She was born in the United States in 1880, but when she was just 19 months old, an illness left her both blind and deaf. The world around her did not disappear, but the usual pathways into it did.
No spoken language, no written words, no sounds, no sight. Only touch, movement, temperature, vibration.
Imagine that for a moment. You can feel the warmth of sunlight on your skin. You can feel someone take your hand. You can feel water running across your fingers. But no one has ever explained what any of those sensations mean. There are experiences, but no shared symbols for them, no words.
As a child, Keller developed ways to communicate through gestures and reactions. She could express frustration, desire, recognition. But the world around her remained largely unorganized, a stream of sensations without names. Then, in 1887, a young teacher named Anne Sullivan entered her life, and one moment between them would become one of the most famous breakthroughs in the history of human learning.
Before language, she experienced the world through touch and vibration alone. She felt water. She felt warmth. She felt hands moving. She reacted to signs, much like an intelligent animal would.
Exactly. But then came that moment at the water pump. Her teacher traced WATER into her palm while cold liquid ran over her skin. And suddenly, something shifted. The tactile pattern did not just signal a sensation, it stood for something. The movement of fingers represented a substance, an idea. In her own words, she described it as a light breaking through. The symbol was no longer a signal, it became a concept. And with that shift, absence became possible. She could think of water when there was none. She could want it. She could miss it.
But here's the critical question. Did water begin to exist in that moment? No. She already knew the sensation. She had already interacted with the substance. The biological reality was there.
Yes, the biological reality was there. But something else was born. Not water the substance, water the concept. Water that could be remembered when absent. Water that could be requested. Water that could be compared to milk or rain or river. She moved from reacting to sensations to inhabiting a world that could be organized.
And once a symbol stands for something, it doesn't need to be spoken aloud.
Yes, the conversation can begin internally. The hand no longer needs the water pump. The word can echo inside. In that moment, we begin to live in two worlds at once.
The world of what is, and the world of what it means.
One is made of matter, the other of symbols.
The physical world is what we touch, what we see, what is present.
But the moment a symbol stands for something, we are no longer confined to what is here.
The sky is no longer just light and atmosphere. It becomes story.
We do not just see the universe, we imagine it, we model it.
We reconstruct what we cannot witness.
We map movement and turn it into meaning.
And all of this begins here.
External language coordinates tribes. Internal language coordinates selves.
So language doesn't just connect us to others. It creates a private space. And that the human world begins in that gap between signal and symbol?
Precisely. And here we meet Ernst Cassirer. For centuries, we've defined the human being as animal rationale, the rational animal. But Cassirer proposed something more precise, animal symbolicum. Not merely the animal that reasons, but the animal that mediates, the symbolic animal.
That sounds almost soft, artistic, cultural. Evolution doesn't select for poetry. It selects for survival.
And Cassirer would argue that for humans, survival and symbolism fused. We don't merely react to heat, we build myths about fire.
Makes you appreciate the light.
We don't just feel attachment, we invent marriage. We don't just fear death, We construct rituals, heavens, histories. Physical reality does not disappear, but it recedes behind a web of significance, and we no longer see through unfiltered instinct. We see through symbolic mediation.
But doesn't that risk arrogance? Chimpanzees navigate the world effectively. They interpret signs. They recognize threats. They remember. They don't need language to survive.
True. And this is where philosopher Suzanne Langer introduces a fascinating figure, a chimpanzee she calls Hoi. Hoi interprets natural signs beautifully. Clouds mean rain, smells mean food, growls mean danger. Hoi is a realist, but Hoi cannot step outside the immediate. He cannot hold yesterday as a narrative. He cannot imagine next year. He cannot argue about what should have happened. He cannot ask whether the tribe across the valley has rights.
So the distinction isn't intelligence, it's abstraction.
Yes, it is the ability to let a symbol stand for something absent. To build models. To create shared fictions. To cooperate at scale. The moment Helen Keller grasped that water was not merely sensation but representation, she entered that symbolic layer. Not a better world, but a different one.
And that's where the mountain begins to rise. Because if our world is structured symbolically, then the human
Careful,
world,
the mug is hot.
culture, law, money,
Thank you.
identity, is not just found, it is built.
Careful. Built does not mean arbitrary. We are still biological creatures. We still bleed. We still fall. But we never encounter falling without narrative, without metaphor, without meaning. And here is the quiet tension that will guide us upward. Biology gives us being. Symbolism gives us world. Biology anchors us. Symbolism orients us. And perhaps what makes us human is not that we replaced reality, but that we layered it.
So the question becomes, if we are the symbolic animal, what exactly are we building? What kind of world takes shape when symbols accumulate? And how much of what we take to be the world is actually the architecture of our own symbols?
That is where we're heading. Because once we understand how symbols work, we can begin to ask what kind of symbolic structures we inhabit today, and whether we recognize them, or mistake them for nature itself.
The mountain just got steeper.
Good. Let's climb.
So, if we accept that humans are symbolic animals, the next question feels unavoidable. How does a sound become meaningful? How does vibration turn into understanding? What gives a word its meaning? Is it tied directly to the object it names? Or is something else happening beneath the surface?
To answer that, we have to introduce a Swiss linguist from the early 20th century, Ferdinand de Saussure. Saussure asked a simple but destabilizing question. What is a word, really? He's often called the father of structuralism, and his claim is deceptively simple. The linguistic sign, a word, is made of two parts. The signifier, the sound pattern, and the signified, the concept it evokes. Not the object itself, the concept. And concepts live in minds, not in trees.
So when I say tree, the sound T-R-E-E is the signifier. The mental image of a trunk and branches is the signified, but the physical oak outside the window? That's not technically inside the sign.
Exactly. And here's where the climb steepens. Saussure argues that the relationship between signifier and signified is arbitrary. There is nothing inherently tree-like about the sound tree. The oak does not whisper its own name. Another language uses arbre or baum. The object doesn't dictate the sound, the system does.
But that seems trivial. Of course, languages use different sounds. That doesn't mean they're creating reality. It just means they've agreed on different labels.
But Saussure goes further. He says meaning does not arise from a word pointing to a thing. It arises from a word's difference from other words. In language, there are no positive terms, only differences. Light is only light because it is not dark. Up is only up because down exists. Self is only self because there is other. You only know you are tall because most people are shorter than you.
That sounds abstract. Explain it without disappearing into the clouds.
Think of a chessboard. A knight is not defined by the wood it's carved from. It's defined by how it moves, and by the fact that it is not a bishop, not a rook, not a pawn. Its identity is relational. Remove the system, and the piece loses its meaning. If you remove the rules, the knight becomes carved wood.
So you're saying words function the same way?
Yes. Take the word mother. It doesn't derive meaning from biology alone. It gains meaning because it is not father, not child, not aunt. Meaning is relational, not isolated. Language carves the undifferentiated flow of human experience into categories, and those categories gain shape through contrast.
But surely biology anchors those categories. A mother corresponds to a biological fact.
Sometimes. But notice how categories shift across cultures. Some languages distinguish older and younger siblings with entirely different words. Some have multiple words for what we collapse into one. The biological continuum is there, but the grid lines are drawn differently, which suggests something important. Language doesn't invent the raw material, but it structures it.
So meaning isn't attached directly to objects. It's suspended inside a network, a web.
Precisely. And here is where altitude increases. If meaning is differential, if it arises from relations, then no word stands alone. Each term exists inside a lattice of oppositions. Hot only makes sense against cold, life against death, self against other. Even reality gains shape against illusion.
Which implies something unsettling. If the network shifts, the meaning shifts. And if enough relations shift, entire categories can dissolve.
Yes, and this is the crucial synthesis point. Language does not conjure mountains into existence, but it determines how mountains are carved conceptually. Is it a resource, a sacred site, a border, a challenge, a homeland? The rock is there, but the meaning lives in the system.
So perhaps language doesn't invent the world, but it carves it.
That's the altitude gain. It's not creation ex nihilo, not creation out of nothing. It's segmentation. Reality presents a continuous field. Language cuts it into units, names them, stabilizes them. And once stabilized, we begin using those units silently, inside ourselves.
So the architecture isn't only public, it's mental.
Yes, the lattice lives in thought. And once stabilized, those units begin to feel natural, obvious, self-evident.
And we forget the carving ever happened. We mistake the grid for the terrain. Maps are useful, but they are not mountains. If categories feel natural, does that mean they were inevitable?
No, natural feeling is not the same as natural origin. Some structures feel obvious only because we were born inside them. And that forgetfulness is powerful, because once categories feel natural, they become unquestionable. But Saussure is reminding us, the structure is human, the relations are constructed, the system could have been drawn differently.
Which raises an unsettling thought. If meaning is relational, and relational systems can shift, then our conceptual world is less fixed than we imagine.
Less fixed, but not unmoored. The biological and physical world constrain what systems are viable. We cannot simply rename gravity out of existence, but within those constraints, language sculpts, and sculpting shapes perception.
So we're beginning to see a layered model. Biology gives us sensation. Language organizes sensation. Structure gives us meaning.
Yes, and the climb is not finished. Because if language structures meaning through difference, then we must ask a deeper question. If language carves differently, do we end up living on different landscapes? If categories differ, does perception differ? If grammar shifts, does reality shift?
That sounds dangerous.
It's the next ridge, and it will take us into the territory of linguistic relativity. But before we move, let's pause here at this camp. Language does not invent the mountain, but it determines where we see the paths and which slopes feel natural.
We've left base camp.
And the air is getting thinner.
For most of human history, language felt transparent, a tool, a bridge between minds, a mirror held carefully against the world. But what if the mirror bends? What if grammar carries hidden assumptions, not only about communication, but about reality itself? Every language divides experience differently. Some carve time into measurable units, others emphasize process. Some orient the world around left and right, others around north and south. And slowly, quietly, those structures begin shaping attention itself, not imprisoning thought, but guiding it, illuminating certain patterns while leaving others in shadow. And once a civilization speaks within those patterns long enough, the structures begin to feel natural, obvious, invisible. The mountain has changed now. We are no longer asking how language names the world. We are asking whether language helps construct the world we experience.
All right, if language carves the world conceptually, if meaning is relational, then here's the dangerous step. What if different linguistic systems carve reality differently? What if speakers of different languages are not just labeling the same world, but inhabiting slightly different ones?
And if that's true, then disagreement may run deeper than opinion. You've just stepped into the territory of Benjamin Lee Whorf, and this is where things get controversial. Whorf proposed that the structure of a language influences, even shapes, how its speakers perceive reality. Not vocabulary, structure, grammar, not what you say, but how your language forces you to say it.
This is where people usually bring up that old myth about Eskimo words for snow, which, to be clear, doesn't prove anything.
Correct. Vocabulary differences are superficial. Whorf was interested in something deeper. Take English. Our sentences are structured as subject plus predicate. The lightning strikes. We separate the actor from the action. We treat events as objects performing behaviors.
Because that's how reality works. Something does something.
Is it? Physics tells us there is no thing called lightning separate from striking. Lightning is the strike. The event and the object collapse into one process. Yet our grammar forces us to split them.
So we inherit metaphysics every time we open our mouths.
Actor, action. Noun, verb.
So you're suggesting that grammar smuggles metaphysics into everyday speech?
Precisely. Whorf examined the Hopi language and argued that its structure treats time and process differently from English. In English, we count time like objects: 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Time becomes a row of units, discrete, stackable. We schedule it, budget it, spend it.
That's just practical. We need calendars.
Of course. But Whorf claimed that Hopi grammar emphasizes duration and becoming, process rather than objectified time. If that's true, then language isn't just labeling experience, It's directing attention, highlighting some patterns, downplaying others.
But this is where I push back. Influence isn't imprisonment. If Hopi grammar created an entirely different physics, then translation would be impossible. Yet Hopi speakers can learn Newtonian mechanics. English speakers can learn Hopi concepts. The mind isn't locked inside grammar. It can notice its own habits.
Good. That's an important correction. Strong linguistic determinism, the idea that language traps thought completely, doesn't hold up. But moderate linguistic relativity? That's harder to dismiss. Studies show that speakers of languages with different color categories notice color boundaries differently. Languages that use cardinal directions, such as north, south, east, and west, instead of left and right, produce speakers with extraordinary spatial awareness. They always know where north is. Attention is shaped. Patterns become salient.
So language acts like a spotlight. It doesn't change the stage, but it changes what's illuminated and what remains in shadow.
Yes. And once something is repeatedly illuminated, it becomes cognitively easier to perceive, which raises the stakes. If grammar guides attention, then cultural emphasis follows, and perception gradually aligns with structure.
But now I want to bring in a counterweight. Because if we lean too far here, we risk implying that culture writes directly onto a blank mental slate. And that doesn't match what cognitive science tells us. Before we drift too far into linguistic relativism, we need a counterweight. Enter Noam Chomsky.
Universal grammar.
Exactly. Chomsky argues that children are born with an innate linguistic framework.
We should go exploring in the woods because it's very wondrous out
A
there.
biological structure
I like
that generates
trees.
grammar. We don't absorb language passively. We produce it creatively. Children say things they've never heard before.
I go to the park
I go to the park.
and I run fast.
I runned fast. They're applying internal rules, not copying.
Which suggests the mind precedes language, or at least shapes it.
Yes, Steven Pinker expands this further. He calls language an instinct, an evolved adaptation. The brain comes equipped with pattern recognition architecture. Language rides on that architecture. So the brain provides constraints. Language explores within them. The hardware shapes the software.
But the software still feeds back into perception. Just because grammar emerges from neural structure doesn't mean its effects are neutral. Consider this. Biology gives us a vocal tract, but what we choose to speak about, law, justice, honor, debt, reshapes social reality.
I see the layering now. Let me try to synthesize. Biology provides the cognitive scaffolding. Language fills it with structure. Structure directs attention. Attention shapes interpretation. But none of this eliminates the underlying physical world.
That's well put. Language does not rewrite gravity, but it can reshape how gravity is understood. Is it punishment? Is it law? Is it divine order? Is it curvature of space-time? Each linguistic framework reframes the same phenomenon.
So perhaps we were wrong to frame this as a binary. It's not language or reality. It's co-evolution. Mind shapes language. Language shapes attention.
And then he said the funniest thing about the waiter. I honestly
Attention
couldn't stop
shapes
laughing.
experience.
Sounds like you had quite the afternoon.
Experience feeds back into mind.
And that circularity is important.
If language shapes attention, and attention shapes interpretation, then what happens when symbolic systems fragment?
Then shared reality becomes harder to maintain.
We should try the new Italian place. Yeah.
Because it means we are
I heard
neither
the service is
trapped
great.
nor sovereign.
Wait, I thought you said it was terrible. Why are you laughing?
It is terrible. We should go.
We inherit symbolic systems, but we also modify them.
Which makes the question more urgent. If language subtly shapes perception, then the symbolic systems we participate in today matter profoundly. The words we repeat, the metaphors we amplify, the categories we normalize.
Careful, we're not at the summit yet. But yes, the air is thinner. What we're beginning to see is this. Language does not create the mountain. Biology does not create the map. Both are operating, simultaneously, interdependently.
So we're not imprisoned by grammar, but we're not untouched by it either.
Exactly. And now we face the next ascent. If language shapes perception but cannot fully contain reality, then what happens at the limits of language? What happens when words fail? When experience overflows grammar?
That's not just linguistic, that's existential.
Yes, and that's where we climb next. We've climbed through structure, through grammar, through biology and attention. But now we arrive at a quieter ridge, because even if language shapes perception, there are moments when language fails. Moments when we stand before something and words fall short. And we feel it before we can name it.
You mean like grief? Or awe? Or pain? Those moments where explanation feels almost insulting.
Yes. And here we encounter Ludwig Wittgenstein. Early in his career, he believed language worked like a logical mirror of reality. Propositions pictured the world. But later, he changed his mind. He came to see language not as a mirror, but as a collection of language games. Meaning is use. He realized language is not a mirror held up to the world. It's a set of tools shaped by practice. Wittgenstein imagines a builder at work. He calls out slab. One word, not a sentence, not a description, a command.
And the assistant brings a slab.
Yes, the word doesn't mirror reality. It functions within an activity. Its meaning is what it does.
I know.
Language, then, is not primarily about picturing the world.
80 from the lady on the
It is
left.
about participating in it.
Is what democracy looks like.
Words function within practices, within forms of life.
So meaning isn't fixed to objects. It emerges from how we use words in context.
Exactly. But here's the unsettling part. If meaning is use, then there is no final foundation beneath language. No hidden essence waiting behind words. Only shared activity, only practices, only shared habits. And Wittgenstein ends his early work with a line that still echoes. Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must remain silent. That wasn't defeat, it was humility.
That line always feels like a cliff edge. It implies there are aspects of reality beyond articulation.
Yes, and we encounter this every time we struggle to describe an experience. Take the famous duck-rabbit image. The drawing doesn't change, but your perception flips. One moment you see a duck, then suddenly, a rabbit. The sensory input remains identical, but your interpretation shifts. Language helps anchor one reading or another. Yet the moment of seeing as precedes the word. There is something happening prior to description, and yet once we name it, duck, it becomes harder to see rabbit.
Which suggests that perception isn't entirely constructed by language. There's a layer beneath, a rawness that words attempt to capture.
Or attempt to stabilize. Now let's bring in Martin Heidegger. He called language the house of being. Not because language creates reality, but because it is where reality becomes intelligible to us. At first glance, that sounds like your argument. We live inside language. But Heidegger adds a nuance. Humans are not the lords of being. We are its shepherds. Language discloses the world, but does not exhaust it. Being exceeds our categories. We never exhaust what is.
So even if language carves the world conceptually, it never fully contains it.
Yes, and that excess matters, because it humbles us. When we stand before death, when we encounter beauty, when we feel profound love, language strains. We reach for metaphor, for poetry.
We try to capture it with words, but some feelings just exist outside the lines. They breathe in the silence
For
between
music.
us.
And this is where Suzanne Langer deepens the tension. She argues that music is a symbolic form, not descriptive, but expressive. It captures the shape of feeling. Before we can say what grief is, we can feel its contour in a minor key, the morphology of emotion, without discursive explanation.
So even when language fails, we don't abandon symbolism, we switch systems.
Exactly. We are not merely linguistic animals, we are symbolic animals. We ritualize grief, we compose elegies, we build monuments. We cannot face reality nakedly, we always mediate it.
But that mediation, is it protective or distancing? Does language shield us, or does it stand between us and the rawness of being?
That's the unsettling question. If language never fully captures being, and yet we cannot step outside it, then we inhabit an in-between, suspended. The world exceeds us, but we never encounter it except through symbols.
So we are neither sovereign creators, nor passive observers. We are interpreters, always interpreting. Even in silence, the interpreting continues. And that silence isn't empty, it's structured.
Yes, and interpretation is never complete. That incompleteness is not a flaw. It is the condition of being human, but it carries risk. Because when we mistake our symbols for the totality of reality, we harden them. And when symbols harden, conflict follows. We defend them. We forget that they are partial.
There's something humbling about this altitude. Language gives us extraordinary power. It allows us to cooperate, to theorize, to remember, but it also limits us, and perhaps protects us from the full intensity of what is.
Yes, language is both lantern and veil. It illuminates what it frames, but framing always excludes, and what lies outside the frame remains.
So where does that leave us?
On the edge of something important. Because if language structures meaning, and yet cannot fully contain reality, then the symbolic worlds we build are both powerful and fragile. And that fragility becomes crucial when we consider how humans coordinate at scale, how we build societies, how we construct shared realities.
If language never fully captures being, why do we cling to it so fiercely?
Because without shared symbols, we cannot coordinate.
We overlay the astronomical charts here.
The migration patterns align.
We've climbed into thinner air, and it's quieter here.
Yes, but one final ascent remains, and from that summit, the view will widen.
There are moments when language fails us. Moments where grief exceeds explanation, where awe silences speech, where reality presses against the edges of grammar itself. And yet, even at the limits of language, humans continue reaching outward, through metaphor, through ritual, through music, through story. Because symbols do more than describe the world.
It's remarkable how we move together.
They bind minds together. Over thousands of years, those symbols accumulated. Stories became identities. Identities became nations. Invisible agreements became civilizations. Money, law, justice, borders, history. None exist in nature the way mountains or oceans do, and yet billions of people organize their lives around them every day. The human world is not built from stone alone. It is built from shared meaning. And that makes language far more than communication. It becomes coordination, memory, belonging, conflict, meaning itself. The summit is close now, and from here, the view begins to widen.
We've traveled a long way, from sensation to symbols, to system, to grammar, to the limits of language. And what we've found is not a simple answer. Language does not invent mountains, but it carves their paths. It doesn't create gravity, but it frames its meaning. It shapes attention. It stabilizes perception. And yet, it never captures the whole.
And there is one more layer we haven't yet touched, the quietest one, the dialogue that never leaves the mouth.
You mean the voice in the head?
Yes, the internal monologue, the silent stream of words through which we narrate ourselves. Before we speak externally, we speak internally. We describe the world to ourselves. We interpret events. We rehearse conversations.
I know it's difficult, but we can't keep
We
avoiding
justify
it.
ourselves. We defend ourselves. We condemn ourselves. We argue with imagined critics. Language is not only social, it is intrapersonal.
And that internal language feels different from public speech. It's less polished, sometimes deeper, sometimes more honest, sometimes more confused.
Exactly. And here's the unsettling thought. Even when we are alone, we are mediated by symbols. Our self-understanding unfolds in language. Our identity becomes narrative. I am this. I am not that. This happened to me. This means something. And once narrated long enough, it hardens.
And over time, these become the stories we tell ourselves.
Yes, and hardened stories can be difficult to release, even when they wound us. The symbolic web does not only stretch between people, it stretches inward.
But sometimes, and we've all felt this, there are emotions we can't quite articulate. A pressure in the chest, a sense of longing, a tension that words seem to flatten.
Yes, and that is where the earlier tension returns. Being exceeds language. Meaning often precedes articulation. There is an interior depth that we struggle to translate, and yet we try. Always we try. We reach for metaphor, for music, for conversation.
I'm not sure how to put this, but
We move from internal dialogue to external dialogue,
I think
from
I finally see
solitary
it now.
meaning to shared meaning. And sometimes, the translation fails,
We say what we mean, but it lands
Why I
differently.
made that choice.
because the symbolic webs are never perfectly
It wasn't
aligned.
easy for me either.
And that movement is fragile, because once we externalize an internal feeling, it becomes subject to interpretation, to misunderstanding, to distortion.
Yes, and yet, civilization depends on us trying to align them. And this is where the summit view opens. Human civilization rests on shared symbols. Money, law, rights, history, identity. These are not mountains or rivers. They are symbolic agreements, abstract ideas. You cannot touch them the way you touch stone, but they organize millions of lives. And they exist because enough internal dialogues align externally. We agree, often unconsciously, to treat certain symbols as real.
Which means that our collective world depends on fragile alignment between millions of internal conversations.
Yes, and that is both hopeful and weighty.
If we adjust
Hopeful,
the footprint
because
here, we
symbolic
can preserve
systems can
more
evolve.
space
They are not fixed
that
in
aligns
stone.
with the
We can
historical
refine them,
usage patterns.
expand them, correct them. Weighty, because when internal narratives fragment, when shared language collapses, the external world destabilizes. When shared symbols fracture, cooperation becomes harder.
So the question isn't simply whether language creates reality. It's whether the symbolic systems we inhabit are coherent enough to sustain shared reality.
Exactly. Biology gives us bodies. The physical universe gives us constraints. But the human world, the one we navigate daily, is scaffolded by language. And if that scaffolding fractures, confusion follows, division follows, isolation follows.
And yet, the very fact that we can sit here and examine the structure of language itself suggests something hopeful. We are not entirely imprisoned by our symbols, but we are responsible for how we use them. We can step back, reflect, reframe.
Yes, we did not invent the universe, but we participate in shaping the symbolic world we inhabit together. And perhaps that is the real summit, Not a declaration, not a final answer, but a recognition that we are symbolic creatures in a reality that exceeds us, carving meaning from continuity, building worlds from words.
So maybe the deeper question isn't, does language create reality? But, what kind of symbolic world are we building within ourselves?
It feels like we're finally seeing the same picture.
Yes.
And between one another?
It's fragile, but it's there.
We may never encounter the world without language, but we can become more conscious of the webs we spin. And perhaps that awareness, alone, changes the way we speak and listen.
I worry sometimes that the words themselves obscure the
Every
meaning.
word is a thread.
Maybe. But they also allow us to connect in the first place.
And threads, woven long enough, become worlds.
We've reached the summit, but it doesn't feel like an ending.
No, it feels like responsibility. All is one.
We began by asking whether language merely describes the world, or whether it builds the world we inhabit. We've seen that the answer is not simple. Biology precedes grammar, but meaning exceeds biology.
That's the first letter of your name.
The world may exist independently of our words, yet the human world does not. Nations, money, justice, gods, futures. These are not found in the soil or the stars.
And
They
that
live
shared
between
meaning,
us,
I think, is what truly connects us across the years.
suspended in shared
It reminds me
symbols,
of my grandmother's.
and that is both our power and our danger.
It's
Because if our
remarkable
shared
how
world is made of
symbols
symbols,
reappear across generations.
then the symbols we choose matter.
Generations have sat by
The
fires
stories
just
we
like this,
defend
passing the
matter.
light from hand to hand, heart to heart.
The categories we enforce matter. The metaphors we inherit matter. Every civilization stands on invisible agreements, agreements about time, about identity, about truth.
Furthest reach of the glacier, see?
And those agreements are carried in language. The question is not whether we live in a symbolic world. We do. The question is, what kind of symbolic world are we building inside ourselves and between one another?
That truly connect us across the years.
We are not lords of reality, but we are custodians of meaning.
It's getting brighter over there.
And meaning, when shared wisely, becomes the bridge between minds. Language is the lantern we carry into the dark. So tread carefully. The words you choose are shaping the world you see. All is one.